Well, hey everybody, today we're going to be checking out the brand new 3-rail O-scale E8AA set from Lionel, and this is a set that will make you positively green with envy. That's the best I had. I'm sorry. Here it is. All right, so here's our box. Now for today's unboxing, we're going to use this knife from my knife collection. This is an old one. I've had it for many years and I kind of misplaced it. And then a couple weeks ago, I was going through some boxes actually down here in the layout room and I found it. So this is a Case M3 Thin. Cool little knife. Anyway, there's the box tag. New York Central Legacy E8AA number 4053 and 4083, model number 2333340. That's a lot of threes. And an OBS date, basically an on the water date of June 30th, 2023. Pretty heavy box. Yeah, nice looking box. And there's the box tag. Again, New York Central Legacy E8AA 4053-4083. Legacy control with Bluetooth. 2 powered A units. Smoke in both locomotives. Legacy rail sounds in lead A unit. 036 minimum curve. It's like a Russian nesting doll. Got boxes within boxes. Okay, so this is the lead unit, number 4083. There's the instructions. Always read these. All right, here goes nothing. Wow. Wow, that looks great. Now, I'm no expert on the New York Central, but it looks to me like they got the shade of green correct, which is a big deal. That was the thing I was most nervous about in ordering these, is whether or not Lionel would get the green, the right shade of green. And, I mean, to me, that looks correct. Now, you may ask, why would you be worried if they would get the shade of green correct? Well, anybody who's been a fan of Lionel for a long time knows that, you know, most of the time they get it right, but every once in a while they don't. And green is one of those colors that Lionel has historically sometimes had issues with. Greens, reds, and blues. And you never know. Most of the time they get it right, but you just never know until you open the box. And so it's very refreshing to see that, at least to me, it looks like they got it right. That's awesome. And it looks great. And by the way, this little bag that's included in the box, it's got spare traction tires and also the mounting pads in case you want to use scale couplers. And here's the trailing A unit, which is also powered. It just doesn't have sound. Number 4053. All right, and here they are on the layout. Don't they look great? So unfortunately, it's kind of hard to get both A units in frame and have them both be in focus at the same time. And that's probably more due to me being a crappy cameraman than anything else. So rather than having you think you need glasses every time you see this blurry A unit back here, I'm going to focus on the front A unit and then we'll get to the rear A unit in just a few minutes. There, see, that's a little better. So let's start off with some history on the real E8. So the EMD E8 is a 2250 horsepower passenger train locomotive that was built by EMD starting in August of 1949. A total of 450 E8A cab units and 46 cabless E8B units were built before production ended in December of 1953. The 2200 horsepower came from two 12-cylinder Model 567B engines, each driving a generator to power the two traction motors on each truck. The E8 was the 9th model in the line of passenger diesels of similar designs known as EMD E-units. Although they were used by a large number of both American and Canadian railroads, the railroads that operated the largest numbers of E8s were, not surprisingly, New York Central, the Pennsy, and the Union Pacific. The E8 served for many years, with some of them eventually being converted for freight service and the others serving under Amtrak until the late 1970s. Although most of the E8s were eventually scrapped, a decent number of them were saved, and today it's estimated that there are about 58 E8s that exist in preservation at various locations around the country. And of course, probably the most well-known preserved E8 is New York Central 4083, which has been fully restored by the United Railroad Historical Society in Boonton, New Jersey. I hope I said that right. And by the way, in case you didn't notice, one of the A units here is in fact number 4083. Pretty cool. And now let's talk about Lionel's rendition of the E8. So this model appeared in Lionel's 2023 Volume 1 catalog, and these were delivered just about a week or two ago here in September of 2023. The E8s were offered in a number of different road names on pages 34 and 35 of the catalog. They offered them in Southern Pacific, New York Central like we have here, Southern, and Amtrak. On pages 36 and 37, they did a beautiful Aberdeen, Carolina, and Western version. And then on pages 50 and 51 of the catalog, they did a set with the E8, the Rock Island Quad Cities Rocket set. And finally, way in the back of the catalog in the Christmas section, they did a North Pole Central version. Now, I gotta say that when I saw all of these available road names for the E8 in the 2023 Volume 1 catalog, I had a devil of a time deciding which one to order because my budget wouldn't allow me to order more than one of these sets at that time. And so eventually I settled on the New York Central mainly because of the paint scheme. I love this mint green color and it's really unlike anything else I've got in my collection right now. So ultimately that was really the deciding factor. It looked cool and so I decided to order it. But man, if I have the money at some point, I'd love to pick up the Southern or the Amtrak or the AC&W. We'll just have to see. Anyway, so let's get some stats on this set. The lead unit here is going to be about 17.5 inches long. If we count the couplers, that takes it out to about 18.25, 18.5. And the trailing A unit has the exact same length. Let's get the weight. Here's my ultra scientific measuring device. So the lead unit weighs in at right at 4 pounds, 8 ounces. And while we're at it, we'll measure the trailing unit, which should be slightly lighter because it doesn't have a sound system. And it is right at 4 pounds, 6 ounces. Now, the minimum required curve needed to operate this set is 0.54. And when I measured the pulling power, each of the individual A units came in right at around 2 pounds of pulling power. And the combined pulling power for both A units together was 4 pounds, 4 ounces, which is actually really good. And with 4 pounds, 4 ounces of pulling power, this set will probably max out pulling around 50 to 55 cars, which again is really, really good. Now, whenever I review one of these combo sets, be it an AA set or an ABA set, there are generally two questions that I get from viewers on a regular basis. The first question is, can you run these units as separate locomotives or do you have to run them together at all times? And the answer is, no, you do not have to run them together at all times. They are each standalone legacy locomotives and you can run them as separate locomotives if you want to. Now, there are a couple caveats to that when it comes to the rear unit number 4083. First of all, while that locomotive does have two motors, a smoke unit, lights, Bluetooth, and legacy command, it does not have a sound system. Only the lead unit has a sound system, and so if you run 4083 by itself, it's going to be pretty quiet. The other caveat is because 4083 is designed to run behind the lead A unit, when you first power it up, its default forward motion will actually be to go in reverse. And that's because it's meant to follow that lead A unit pointed in the opposite direction. So when you power it up, if you want it to go in the direction of the cab, you'll have to change direction. And that sort of weaves into the second question that I often get, which is, well, hey, if they're each individual legacy locomotives, how do you get them to run as one giant locomotive? And it's actually really easy. They're designed to do that. So if you're going to run these things with legacy or TMCC, when you get the set out of the box and put it on the track, it will have a default ID of 1. So if you pull up locomotive 1 on your legacy or TMCC remote, these will both power up and they will run together as they should. Now, most modelers usually assign the locomotives a new ID in their system because they don't want every locomotive to have an ID of 1. So if you do that, just make sure you assign both of these locomotives the same ID and they will always run together. The only time you don't want them to have the same ID is if you want to run them as separate locomotives, like I said before. And if you're going to run these with the Lion Chief app on your smartphone or tablet, that's easy too. When you get it out of the box, you put it on the track, you pull up the Lion Chief app, and they will both show up as a single locomotive on the Lion Chief app. You power it up, and they will run together as they should. Easy peasy. So now I want to go in for some close-ups to show you some of my favorite spots on these locomotives. Starting with the nose, you can see, I mean, what's not to like about this nose? It looks fantastic. So we got the New York Central logo here with the 2 add-on grab irons on either side, lighted number boards, operating marker lights, and an operating headlight. And above that on the nose, we've got more grab irons, add-on windshield wipers on the windshields, and grab irons above the windshields as well. It all looks fantastic. The die-cast metal truck side frames on this model look amazing. They're actually some of my favorite trucks that I've ever seen. There's something about them. They just look really cool. And then above that, the cab doors open up, and they are sprung, so they snap shut, as do all the other doors on the E8. And then we've got these nice steps below the door and add-on metal grab irons on either side. The cab interior is lighted when the engine is on. However, the light turns off once the engine starts moving, which is prototypical. And then you've got 2 hand-painted crew figures on the inside as well. Here's another one of those sprung doors I was talking about. Very cool. And again, add-on grab irons on either side. And check out these porthole windows. They are blacked out, which is a nice thing. That way you don't have to see the electronics and the wires on the other side. And check out these really nice metal screens up here. They look great. And here's what it looks like on the rear of one of these units. We've got some nice molded in details, add-on metal grab irons, and then these sprung diaphragms, which are very well executed. They look great. There's a molded in door inside. That door does not open, but there is a clear plastic window in it. However, that window is blacked out just like the portholes, which again is a good thing. You don't want to see any unsightly wires or anything like that. And then below that, we've got a dummy O-gauge coupler. Now, I didn't mention it, but the coupler on the front of the unit is an electro coupler that you can fire from your phone or using the Legacy or TMCC remote. This is just a dummy coupler that does not open. And there's 2 reasons why they do that on the rear of these units. First of all, the 2 units are meant to run together, so there's really no reason for them to be active operating couplers. And secondly, if they were electro couplers, they'd have to be a little longer than these dummy couplers, which would increase the gap between the 2 units. And speaking of that gap, here it is when the 2 units are together. It's not bad, especially for O-scale. I'm sure the HO guys are scoffing at this gap, but for O-gauge, it's just fine. Or maybe I shouldn't say that's fine. I should say that's normal for O-gauge. We're used to big gaps, and this is certainly nowhere near the biggest gap I've ever seen between 2 O-gauge locomotives. And then we get to the rooftop. So starting in the front, we've got these 2 nice add-on metal horns. And then we get to all these really cool fans. And the best thing about these is that inside each one of these fans, there is a free spinning fan blade. And if you blow a little compressed air in there, you can see the blade spin. It's really nice. And then they've got all these cool lift rings. We've got the 2 smokestacks that go down to the fan-driven smoke unit. And of course, to load smoke fluid into the smoke unit, you simply pour the smoke fluid directly down the stack. And then toward the back, we've got these nice add-on pipes and more fans. And then at the very back, we've got this removable panel. And if you pop it off, it reveals the master controls for the engine. And here we have the underside of the E8. We've got 2 pickup rollers per truck for good center rail contact. There are 2 traction tires on the inner axle of each truck. And then right here in the middle is the speaker for the sound system. And over here, we've got the sensor for the Lionel LCS sensor track if you choose to use it. All right, so the final thing I want to mention is that since I think that number 4083 might be the more well-known of the currently existing E8s out there, you may be wondering, why is 4083 the trailing unit with no sound? Why can't it be the other way around with 4083 in the lead with sound effects? And the answer is, well, you can do that if you want to. You could simply swap the shells of these two units and do exactly that. So you could remove the screws, swap the two shells, and then you've got 4083 in the lead with the sound effects. All right, the last thing we're going to do before we start this thing up is... All right, so, it seems lately all of my BFIMO choices have been the paint job because Lionel has been putting out so many cool locomotives with awesome paint jobs. And, the main reason I bought this specific model was the paint job. But, I'm not going to pick it this time around, so I'm going to go with the rooftop detailing. When I look at this model, that's the thing that catches my eye. All of those fans on the rooftop, and they have those free spinning blades and so forth. It looks amazing up there. And so, yeah, my pick this time around is those rooftop details. Okay, and now comes the fun part. Let's fire these gals up.
This is the dispatcher. Get us set up running. Your train will be ready at 17:30. Over. Roger that. Let's get to work. Out.
Alright, so just like all legacy locomotives Lionel is making these days, the E8 has a choice of 5 horns and 5 bells. So let's check out the 5 horns first, and let me know which one is your favorite. My favorite is number 1. And here are the 5 bells. Which one is your favorite? My favorite is number 5. And lastly, here's a sampling of some of the crew talk sounds.
Dispatcher, can we depart to the main line? Over. Sit tight for a minute. We've got some traffic to clear first. Out.
Air test is good. Ready to pull. On the flagman. Let's get going.
2635, and he won't be out of here for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You mean okay, alrighty. Better call anyways, later on. Okay, thank you.
It's gonna be here
All right, so there you have it, the new Lionel 3-rail O-scale EMD E8AA set. This thing is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm so glad I picked one of these up. My only question now is whether I'm going to get any of the other road names like the Southern and the AC&W and so forth. But yeah, I love this thing. Now, if you want to pick one of these up for yourself, the full retail price is right at $1,200. Yeah, it's not cheap, but keep in mind, if you go through a good Lionel dealer, you should be able to get a decent discount off that full retail price. And as always, if you're looking for a good Lionel dealer, try my favorite train store, which is Legacy Station. You can find them on the web at legacystation.com or give them a call at 770-339-7780. If you'd like to support this channel, I would greatly appreciate it. That can be done through Patreon at patreon.com/ericstrains. Patreon supporters get all sorts of perks and benefits, and you can read about those benefits on my Patreon page. Basically, if you're a Patreon supporter, all your wildest dreams will come true. Now, I'd like to thank all of my current Patreon supporters. Your support means the world, not only to me, but to the future of this channel. And an extra super big thank you goes out to my premium tier Patreon supporters. You'll see their names at the end of this video. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. That's it for now. I'm Eric Siegel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.